You learn to say please, thank you, and I'm sorry. Quite a bit. Whether it's to your boss, your coworkers, your wife, your kids, if you have them at the time, your friends, and the members of your cohort. You intensely rely on a lot of other people to help you get through this. And that's the only way it's possible. It's an intense reliance on other people to help you get through it. And so I started this with learn to say please, thank you, and I'm sorry. And at the end of it, there will be payback time. There will be payback time. But it's all worth it.
So I would just build on that. I mean, if you have a spouse at home, a family, close friends, extended family, they need to be on board with this. Do an interview with them as well. Make sure they are on board with why you're investing this time and energy. Otherwise, you'll be single when you graduate. If they're on board, they recognize the need for the commitment. They recognize that, I live 12 miles away, and I stayed here on Friday nights, and my wife wasn't happy about that every Friday, particularly if I dialed her by accident at the bar. Right? It's networking, right? It's networking. But you really gotta have the full commitment from the family. It's critically important. Critically.
I love that answer. That's really top that one. I think that I think that it's about sort of time, priorities, and sacrifice. There's not enough time, and everything's a priority, and something has to give. And so you're always balancing those three. But I'm going to guess that there's nobody in this room that isn't a multitasker, that isn't faced with those decisions every day in your life. And clearly, this is a significant commitment, and it adds another element of time, priority, and sacrifice to an already demanding life and job, I'm sure. But I remember going through, it was about close to graduation, and I kept saying to my husband, well, if I just get through this, well, if I just go through this. And then I said, well, when I finish Wharton. He's like, Shelley, you've been saying that for years. You fill one void, and you go fill it up with something else. And so that's just really sort of part of life and part of nature. But I think that your support system is critical. It really is. Family support, peer support, your support from your workplace. And one of the greatest stories I ever have about support, I delivered my first child somewhere in the course of the program as well, and I remember, by the way, somewhere in there. And I remember missing a weekend because I was in the hospital, and so 2 weeks later I had this newborn, and so my husband looked at me and he goes, "You need to go to school, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I really do. A, I'd like the night of sleep, but B, I really need to be there." So I went to class, left on Friday, came home on Saturday, and I came home on Saturday afternoon, and there was my husband like passed out on the couch. I don't think he'd showered or shaved since I left the day before. A newborn baby in a diaper laying on his chest. They both were snoring, and I looked around on the floor, and there were diapers and baby bottles and pacifiers and blankets all around him. And I tiptoed into the room, and he opens an eye, and he looks at me, and he clearly could have said a lot of things at that juncture. And the first thing he said out of his mouth was, "So how was school?" And that's a lot of support.
I'll tell you that the day after I finished, I went out to a framing store, and I took the certificate that you really do get. It says Master of Understanding for your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and I got it framed, and I hung it up on the wall for my wife. I had a very similar experience from the male side of things. My second year, we had our second child. I missed one day of school the entire 2 years. My wife had a baby on a Wednesday. We had school that Thursday that weekend. There were a few longer weekends. I missed that Thursday, and I was school on Friday. Same situation. Walked home. How was school? I can't stress enough how much you need people to get through this. You're all successful, hardworking, smart, independent people. You do depend on people. You depend on people around you, but the amount of support, the difference between the support you need right now and the support you'll need while you're in the program is it's the difference between throwing a bullet and shooting one out of a gun. It is a huge difference. Line it up in advance, and I guess the piece of advice I'll offer is that I had to do something that was unnatural for me and my wife in terms of how we got through it. We found that to get through it, we would live 1 week at a time. We couldn't think about 2 months or 6 months or next year. We would live 1 week at a time. We'd get through that week successfully, and then we'd move on to the next week. And you make it.
I think from a practical standpoint, one of the things has been really enforced here is the support network you need. So it's really managing expectations at work and at home, and what you can do and what you will no longer be able to do while you're here in your 2 years. And I think that's been said very clearly. I think the other thing too is, all of you in this room are used to being the Warren Buffett or the Aristotle or the Martha Stewart in each of those respective areas. And the point is, when you're at Wharton, you can't be all of those things at once. And for me, it was a personal coming to Jesus to know that you're not going to be all of those things at once, and there's no way you can viably do that. And recognizing that you're still going to be great at all of those things, but each of those things, pieces of your life, is going to have to give at some point while you're here at Wharton in order for you to accommodate all of those. And in the end, the value and the return is great, even though the sacrifice is a bit much at sometimes.
If I could add one plus
Yeah.
and plug, and I don't need to say this because I've been out of the program 10 years, but the administration here is fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was Di, and I don't know, she humbly during the first week, I asked, kind of what do you see the administration's responsibilities and goals here are? And she resolutely looked at me and said, it's our goal that when you step through the doors, 100% of your focus can be on your schoolwork. And over 2 years, they deliver on that every day. Literally, when you walk through the door, they take care of everything so you can focus 100% on your schoolwork. And I can't say enough about them, because without them, if you had to deal with all that other stuff, there's no way you'd get through it.